This is all-inclusive journey for hands-on Agile project implementing Scrum methodology using JIRA. We will be talking about Agile and Scrum, where Scrum is popular Agile project management framework. We will be reviewing 3 Scrum roles: product owner, who is the key person responsible for maximizing a product's value; DevOps or development operations team, which is self-organizing cross-functional group of professionals; and Scrum Master, who is a servant leader in Agile and Scrum methodology. Overall, the visual journey using practical JIRA assignments will be imitating next 3 roles: DevOps team or Scrum team, Scrum Master, and Product Owner. Let's remember and review waterfall typical project framework. You start with project being assigned to you. You collect requirements, create test plan, add test cases, map TCM, which stands for Test Case Metrics, to RTM, Requirements Traceability Metrics. During execution phase, you execute test plan. During this phase, if you find a defect, you follow the defect's life cycle, after which you complete testing and report to your project stakeholders. However, Agile Project Scrum framework is different. It starts with product owner working on product backlog, which is assigned and delegated to Scrum team, which defines sprint backlog, creates sprint cycles, and runs sprint retrospective meetings. All of this would not be available if Scrum team would not have specific values, which are transparency, self-inspection, quick adaptation, project commitment, total focus, complete openness, mutual respect, and courage to complete project goals. Let's review Agile Project Scrum in a nutshell. It starts when product owner, who is acting as both senior manager, project manager, and business analyst, collects user requirements, after which creates product backlog based on user stories from requirements. And do not forget that product owner is responsible for prioritizing product backlog and final product delivery. After which experienced, self-sufficient Scrum team members selects items from product backlog to form an incoming sprint cycle. As you can see, sprint backlog. All of this is completed when during sprint retrospective meeting, Scrum team members decide on completed product items and return back to product backlogs items which were not completed or had defects. And all of this process is monitored continuously by professional and preferably certified Scrum Master. Now let's walk through Agile major project checkpoints. Let's do not forget that Scrum is easily adoptable lightweight framework designed to help organizations' software delivery team to generate, produce, and add value early, utilizing adaptive solutions for complex problems in order to avoid traditional predictive waterfall costly approach. Organization employs a Scrum Master with Scrum methodology armed with Scrum methodology to ensure an agile environment where, first of all, product owner collects product work requirements from the project stakeholders and converts complex requirements into user stories for product backlog. Then prioritizes product backlog user stories to delegate and delegates finally to Scrum team. Scrum team votes to assign estimation points to product backlog items, selects item from product backlog into sprint cycle backlog, and increments early value addition during a sprint cycle. Additionally, Scrum team holds sprint retrospective meeting with project stakeholders. During such meetings, team inspects the results and adjusts items on the next sprint, or two, or for the next sprint. Sprint cycles are repeated until the final product is assured and delivered to the customer. Scrum events. There are Scrum events. The sprint itself is a container for all events to inspect and adapt Scrum artifacts, which are following next. Sprint planning initiates the sprint by confirming the work to be performed for the incoming sprint. The daily Scrum is a 15-minute event held at the same time and place every sprint's working day for the Scrum team members with the purpose to inspect progress towards the sprint goal. Normally, every Scrum team member is supposed to answer 3 simple questions. What was achieved yesterday? Are there any blocks or defects on the way? And what is going to be achieved for today? During the sprint review, the Scrum team and stakeholders, project stakeholders, inspect the accomplishments outcome for the sprint and collaborate on what to do next to adjust the product backlog. The purpose of the sprint retrospective is to plan how to increase quality and effectiveness based on the last sprint outcome. So altogether, Scrum events are sprint itself, sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, and sprint retrospective meeting. Next topic. Scrum methodology also produces artifacts. The product backlog itself is an ordered checklist of what is required to improve the product. Product backlog items to be done by the Scrum team within one sprint are available for selection during a sprint planning event. The product goal next artifact describes a product's future state to be achieved as a target and long-term objective for the Scrum team. The sprint backlog, composed of the sprint goal Y, set of the product backlog selected for the sprint items, which are what, and a plan for delivering the increment, or how. The sprint goal created during the sprint planning event and then added to the sprint backlog as a single objective for the individual sprint. An increment itself is a concrete foundation stone towards the product goal. And finally, DOD, definition of done, is a formal description of the states of the increment in Kanban, mostly using Kanban board to meet the quality measures required for the product. So to sum up, Scrum artifacts are product backlog, product goal, sprint backlog, sprint goal, an increment, and DOD, definition of done. Who is accountable product owner? A Scrum product owner, or PO, is the key role in the Scrum team, is accountable for the product value optimization and maximization based on the work results of the Scrum team. PO are the voice of the customer, very important terminology, voice of the customer, deciding what gets built and why, ensuring the team focuses on delivering features that offers the most return on investment. Return on investment is financial terminology. Favoring and promoting the product owner's success, the performing organization is obligated to respect their decisions based on personal subjective experience and personal vision. Core responsibilities of the Scrum product owner: product vision, backlog management, stakeholder communication, acceptance. Most importantly, do not forget that PO or product owner is responsible for inspection and acceptance or rejection of the work being done by the development team during sprint reviews, and release decision. PO entirely is accountable to decide when to release product increment and manage the release plan, or not to release. So, to sum up, product owner collects user requirements, analyzes product needs, adds epic stories in JIRA, adds user stories in JIRA, all this about JIRA now, and forwards product backlog to Scrum team. Self-managing development team or Scrum team. Scrum development team is self-organizing, cross-functional group of professionals who are developers, testers, designers, and others within a Scrum team, responsible for creating a potentially shippable and deliverable product increment in each sprint, using their collective skills to turn product backlog items into valuable, releasable functionality without external direction. So far, Scrum development team is a collective. They are characterized by being experts or subject matter experts, accountable, self-organizing, and focused on collaboration, delivering high-quality work, and continuously improving their processes. Key characteristics: self-organizing, cross-functional, small size. Officially in Scrum methodologies, it's 3 to 9 developers. However, I've seen with less and significantly more during my personal career. Accountable, or obviously they're accountable for their collective products delivery. And core responsibilities: deliver value, plan and execute, ensure quality, which is obvious, collaborate. They have to collaborate with product owner, Scrum Master, and internally with any project stakeholder, and participate in events, which is obvious: sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, and sprint retrospective meetings. So overall, to sum up, Scrum team reviews delivered and delegated by product owner, product backlog, then breaks items into tasks in JIRA. We're talking about JIRA now. Then assigns points to tasks, add test cases, and create sprint cycle to execute it. Scrum Master, supposed to be professional and preferably certified. The Scrum Master is accountable for establishing and following Scrum framework methodology practices in the organization, and for the Scrum team being effective. Scrum Master is considered a servant leader in Agile/Scrum who coaches teams, facilitates meetings, removes impediments, this is important, and ensures the team follows Scrum principles to improve organizational workflow and deliver value effectively, who is acting as a process guardian. Scrum Masters protect the team from distractions and guide them towards self-organization and continuous improvement, balancing the what product owner and how developers of the work. Key responsibilities: coaching and facilitation. Scrum Master teaches Scrum methodology inside the organization. Impediment removal. Scrum Master is responsible to identify and remove blockers which are on team's progress way. Protecting the Scrum. Ideally, Scrum Master supposed to shield the team from external interference and distractions, sometimes negative. And process guidance ensures adherence to Scrum values and principles. Core skills of Scrum Master. Servant leadership means a Scrum Master is serving the development team or Scrum team, coaching and monitoring, facilitation for meetings. Scrum Master is only person who is allowed to run meetings in Agile and Scrum methodology adaptation. And conflict resolution, ideally supposed to resolve some kind of team issues if such exists. Agile project order list or list in order. Let's remember once again, Agile principle itself is to deliver the value early in a form of product increment, means which stands for adding value. Collect user requirements to estimate project scope and create functional requirement document. Then, normally using Confluence and JIRA, break up functional requirement document or business functional requirement document into epics under team. This is responsibility, all of the responsibility for product owner. Then again, using these tools, break up epics into smaller user stories. And optionally, there is an optional, break up epic user stories into additional product features. Remember that product business owner is entirely responsible for backlog prioritizing, while the Scrum team developers are responsible for tasks, tests, and sprints execution. The team itself will select and split user stories into tasks. The Scrum team estimates and assigns stories tasks points as a business, like value, efforts, hours, skills. I will be touching this topic later. Then you're supposed to assign story points, break user stories task vertically from easiest to complex. We're implementing and using, especially in JIRA, Kanban board, where we place stories tasks into backlog sprints. I will show you how it is pretty easily done. Then I will show you how to create in JIRA time box sprints and we physically pull stories tasks into backlog. However, please remember there is some such rule in Scrum methodology, not more than 100 points. Once again, I will be touching topic about points. Using Kanban board monitor and control sprint backlog burn down. What does it mean burn down? When you start with open your tasks and complete DOD, which means for definition of done. And finally, declare the project finished when all stories tasks tests end and supply final report generated by JIRA. This journey JIRA project audience. Once again, I'd like to remember that in real world, your actual JIRA efforts outcome results depend on your personal knowledge of your organizational internal business. You need to understand your organizational business where you're working. So anybody who is intended to act as product owner, Scrum Master, project manager, it could be also participating, business analyst, any Scrum team developer or quality assurance analyst, and practically any IT industry beginner or any project stakeholder. Now, valuable JIRA project valuable details. I'd like to explain you something now. you need to remember that in large-scale companies, JIRA will be expected to be customized for your internal organizational needs. For example, I was working only for large-scale companies, and JIRA and Confluence and other like Salesforce and others always were customized by for us for our needs by third parties. In medium range companies might use classical, like in a course video, an adopted version. And in smaller startup companies, you might utilize off-shelf cheap Jira editions, procured, I mean cheap because they're coming from cloud providers like Azure, Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, and Google Cloud Provider. Once again, reminder that this course, I'm not trying for you to follow me exactly. It's simply pragmatic, down to earth, visual demo. I designed it as hands-on, friendly style, how-to, where I'm imitating typical agile project with Scrum methodology for hypothetical insurance company agile project activities. Simply speaking, you don't have to repeat it. You simply can watch it once and understand. The whole point is to show you that Jira is not difficult and it's very user friendly, and it's pretty, if you understand your organizational business, it will be easy for you to run it. Now, important point about user story estimation points. First of all, be aware that in real world, your Jira credentials will be auto-assigned by separate your organizational, specifically dedicated admin or administrator, who will assign you to some kind of project group, which will consist in team members. For example, I used to participate in so huge scale projects that we have on the same project many different group pods. So you will be assigned two types of rights, JIRA rights, read-only rights, granted to not active project stakeholders, and obviously read-write rights, when means you can create items or issues, will be granted to project product owner, business analyst, scrum master, all team developers, quality assurance analyst, user acceptance specialist, and any active influential project stakeholder. So now about Scrum methodology, important notice. In Scrum, there is story points estimation, and typically recommended to use so-called Fibonacci sequence from MES to represent not time, but relatively estimated efforts responding to complexity. And professional certified Scrum Masters, because they're certified, are obligated to use this above classical story points estimation technique. Now, please note that, however, internally in your organization, you are free to equalize and assign story points to actual timely estimated or human resources estimated efforts to be spent on a particular task. So you can create, adopt, and standardize your own story point sequence. Why I'm saying this to you? Because personally, during my long career, I personally witnessed many times when even highly experienced managers, highly technical people like developers, quality assurance analysts, and team leaders, they cannot understand this classical Fibonacci sequence methodology, because professionals, we think in hours. For example, a web developer can estimate approximately how many hours or how many days will be spent for developing a website. A database developer knows approximately how much time, for example, a month or two, how many days it's gonna take them to develop a database and test it properly, and so on. So remember that you are not obligated. It's recommended to use Fibonacci numbers. However, you are not obligated if you, before using it, you will create an agreement, reach an agreement that you will be using actual time or days or human resource efforts. Now, and finally, effective team building. Obviously, effective communication is a key factor to successful team performance. Do not shut down members. They are free to speak up and express their ideas honestly. Commitment. In a strong team, all members make the commitment to common project objectives. Simply speaking, not committed persons are not supposed to make your team member. Sharing. Obviously, there are some kind of strong people, some kind of a little bit more experienced, less experienced. So we're all supposed to share. Strong cooperation. Quite obvious when a talented team figure is supposed to share with beginners, for example, in Scrum team. And most importantly, control. If you are working as QA manager, so team lead or senior quality assurance analyst, be aware that act as a servant only, it's not good for you. You must stay in control over your team's actions, especially during quality testing execution phase. You need to monitor events closely and not to leave your team members alone and unattended. And finally, if something goes off, do not be shy to remind your team members. They have to remember there is no I in team.